The smell of stale coffee and disinfectant clung to me like a second skin, a perfume I couldn't wash off no matter how hard I scrubbed. 3 hours of sleep, if you could call it that, and then the alarm blared for my barista shift. Before that, it was 8 hours wrestling bedpans and beeping machines at the hospital. After this, it would be another 4 hours hunched over my laptop, transcribing garbled audio for a few extra bucks. My name is Caitlin, and this is my life, or what's left of it. For 10 years, every penny I've earned, every ounce of energy I've possessed has gone into this house, into keeping us afloat. The mortgage on this place in any town, the one my dad bought before he passed, it's been my cross to bear. And Mom, Greta, well, her health decided to take a nosedive right around the time I was old enough to actually do something about it. Chronic illness, they call it. I call it a black hole for money. I pushed open the front door, the scent of lavender air freshener, Sasha's latest obsession, hitting me in the face. It didn't quite cover the underlying smell of, well, neglect. My sister, Sasha, was draped over the sofa, one leg dangling, scrolling through her phone. Her latest passion project, a half-finished painting of a lopsided sunflower, gathered dust in the corner. She was 25, lived here rent-free, bill-free and responsibility-free. "Oh, you're home," she said, not looking up. Her thumb flicked across the screen. "Can you grab me a water and maybe a snack? I'm starving." I bit back the retort that I'd just worked a 10-hour day on my feet after a full night shift, and she'd probably just woken up. "There's water in the fridge, Sasha, and apples in the bowl." She sighed dramatically. "Apples are so crunchy. I was thinking something more like those little cheese things you bought." "Those are for Mum's lunch," I said, my voice flatter than I intended. I dropped my bag by the door, the thud echoing my exhaustion. Greta emerged from her bedroom, leaning heavily on her walker. Her face, usually pale and drawn, lit up when she saw Sasha. "There's my girl. Are you hungry, sweetie?" "Starving, Mom," Sasha pouted. "Caitlin won't get me the good cheese." Greta tutted, shuffling towards the kitchen. "Caitlin, darling, don't be difficult. Your sister needs her energy. She's very sensitive, you know. All this creative work takes a lot out of her." "Right," I muttered, heading for the stairs. The strong one can just photosynthesize, I guess. "What was that, dear?" Greta called. "Nothing, Mum, just tired." Later, after I'd managed a shower and changed into fresh scrubs for my transcribing gig, I found them in the living room. Sasha was showing Greta something on her phone, both of them giggling. The television blared some reality show where impossibly tanned people argued over nothing. "I just need a little bit more for the deposit, Mom," Sasha was saying, her voice wheedling. "It's for that new digital art tablet. It's an essential tool if I'm going to take my art seriously." Greta nodded sympathetically. "Of course, dear. We'll find it. Caitlin's been doing so well with her jobs." My fingers tightened on the banister. "The budget is already stretched paper thin, Mom. We just had that new prescription for you, remember? The one we could barely afford." Greta's face clouded. "Oh, Caitlin, don't be so negative. Sasha needs support. You're so capable, you always manage." "Manage?" I echoed, the word tasting like ash. "I manage by working myself into an early grave. When was the last time Sasha contributed anything? Anything at all?" Sasha sniffed, her eyes welling up. "You're always attacking me. I can't help it if I'm not built for soul-crushing labour like you are. I have dreams." "And I have bills, Sasha," I snapped, louder than I meant to. The fatigue was making my control fray. Someone has to pay them. Now, girls," Greta said, her voice trembling slightly. "No fighting. Caitlin, your sister is trying her best. She just needs a little encouragement." I retreated to my room, the familiar burn of resentment coiling in my stomach. It wasn't just the money. It was the invisibility, the The constant expectation that I would carry everything, absorb every blow, and never ever complain. Later that night, I was emptying Sasha's discarded tote bag. She'd left it in the hallway, naturally, intending to put it away, when a glossy brochure slipped out. Serenity Springs Luxury Spa Day. Indulge your senses. My eyes scanned the prices. The Ultimate Bliss package cost more than a week's worth of groceries. Tucked inside was a receipt, paid in full. Just yesterday, Greta had told me, with tears in her eyes, that we couldn't afford the slightly more effective pain medication her doctor recommended, the one that wasn't fully covered by insurance. "We'll have to make do, Caitlin," she'd whispered. "You understand." I looked at the spa brochure, then at the closed door of Greta's room, then at Sasha's, from which faint music drifted. The audacity still stole my breath, but it was the familiar ache of betrayal that settled heavier, a cold, hard knot in my chest. This time, something felt different. This time, the knot wasn't just pain, it was something else, something colder. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, crisp and official looking, addressed to Greta. I'd just dragged myself in from my barista shift, smelling like espresso and despair, and found it on the kitchen counter. Greta was in her armchair, watching a game show at full volume. Sasha was, predictably, nowhere to be seen, probably out with friends, spending money we didn't have. I picked it up. "Mum, this looks important." Greta muted the TV with a sigh. "Oh, probably just another reminder for that specialist. Honestly, the paperwork these days." I tore it open. My eyes scanned the jargon, the figures. My stomach dropped. "Mum, this isn't a reminder, it's a bill. For that new series of tests they did last month, the ones Dr. Ramirez said were crucial." I swallowed hard. It's nearly $2,000. And it says, "Payment overdue." Greta's hand flew to her chest. 2,000? But they said insurance would cover most of it. "Apparently not this part," I said, the paper trembling slightly in my hand. $2,000. I might as well try to pluck it from the sky. My emergency fund was already a distant memory, swallowed by the last hospital stay. "Oh dear," Greta fretted. "What are we going to do, Caitlin? I don't have that kind of money." "I know, Mom," I said, trying to keep the panic from my voice. I'll figure something out." My mind was already racing. There was that temp agency that sometimes had short-term data entry gigs, brutal hours but quick cash. Maybe I could squeeze in a few shifts between the hospital, the coffee shop, and the transcriptions. Sleep was overrated anyway, right? Sasha breezed in then, humming, a new shopping bag swinging from her arm. "Hey, guess what? Luna's having this amazing gallery opening next month, and I absolutely have to get a new outfit. Something sophisticated, you know?" She paused, noticing the atmosphere. "What's wrong? You guys look like someone died." "We just got a massive medical bill for Mum," I said, my voice tight. "Nearly $2,000. Sasha's face fell, but not in the way I expected. "Oh, great, more stress. How am I supposed to be creative with all this financial drama hanging over us? It totally blocks my flow." She flopped onto the sofa. "Can't you just, put it on a credit card or something?" "My credit cards are maxed out, Sasha," I said, each word a tiny icicle, "from the last medical emergency, and the one before that." "Well, don't look at me," she said, picking at a loose thread on her new top. "I'm broke. This whole starving artist thing is real, you know." Later that evening, after a tense, mostly silent dinner of pasta and canned sauce, I found a rare moment alone with Greta. Sasha had retreated to her room to de-stress with her headphones on. "Mum," I began gently, sitting beside her on the sofa. "We need to talk, seriously, about money and about Sasha." Greta stiffened. "What about Sasha?" "She's not contributing, Mom, at all. I can't keep doing this alone. This latest bill, I don't know how I'm going to cover it without taking on even more work. I'm already exhausted. Caitlin, you're so strong, Greta said, her voice taking on that familiar placating tone. You always find a way. Sasha, she's not like you. She's fragile. All this pressure, it's not good for her delicate nature. Delicate? I almost laughed. Mum, she spent the afternoon shopping while we were figuring out how to pay for your vital medical tests. What's delicate about that? She needs an outlet, Greta insisted, her gaze shifting away from mine. She needs to feel normal. You're so capable, Caitlin. You understand these things. She just needs a bit more support. I need support too, Mum. The words burst out before I could stop them. When do I get support? Who looks out for me? Greta looked flustered. Don't be dramatic, dear. Of course, we appreciate everything you do. But her eyes didn't meet mine. The next day, I was in my room trying to focus on a particularly dense audio file when I heard Sasha's voice from her own room, louder than usual. She was on the phone, clearly to her friend Luna. No, girl, it's fine, Sasha was saying, her voice light and airy. Mum will sort it. She always does. Caitlin's freaking out about some bill, but whatever, that's kind of her job, right? To worry about that stuff. A pause, then a giggle. Honestly, Mum knows who really needs looking after. I'll always be taken care of one way or another. I just have to play my cards right. My blood ran cold, not her job. My life, my sacrifice, reduced to her job. I closed my laptop, the garbled audio suddenly unbearable. The usual frustration, the simmering anger, it was still there. But something else was crystallizing beneath it. A chilling dread, a sense of profound, unbridgeable distance from my own family. That evening, Greta cornered me in the hallway. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched a tissue in her hand. Caitlin, she said, her voice thick with emotion, I've been thinking about what you said, and about everything. A tiny, foolish flicker of hope ignited in me. Was she finally going to see? You're so strong, Caitlin, she continued, tears welling. So capable, but Sasha, she needs security, real security. I need to make sure she's secure, no matter what. The vagueness of it, the intensity in her tear-filled eyes, it wasn't reassuring. It was terrifying. The flicker of hope died, replaced by an icy certainty. Something was terribly wrong. The chill I'd felt earlier returned, colder and sharper, settling deep in my bones. No matter what. The words echoed in my mind, ominous and heavy. Greta's words, I need to make sure she's secure no matter what, played on a loop in my head for days. Secure how? What was she implying? The unease settled in my stomach like a stone. I tried to push it away, to focus on the immediate crisis of the $2,000 bill, but it kept bubbling to the surface. I finally called Callie, my best friend since kindergarten, the one person who knew the unvarnished truth of my life. We met for coffee at a cheap diner, the only place I could afford. Hey, she said, what? Callie's eyes widened over the rim of her chipped mug after I recounted Greta's tearful declaration. Caitlin, that sounds bad, like really bad. I know, right? I sighed, stirring my lukewarm coffee. It's so vague, but it felt loaded, like there was something she wasn't telling me. Callie leaned forward, her expression serious. Look, I know she's your mum, and I know you love her, but you've been carrying that entire family for a decade. Sasha contributes nothing but attitude and debt, and your mum enables it. This security thing, it sounds like she's planning to screw you over to benefit Sasha. Screw me over how? I asked, though a cold tendril of suspicion was already wrapping around my heart. The house? It's the only real asset she has. Exactly, Callie said, her voice firm. You've been paying that mortgage single-handedly for years. You told me you refinanced it a while back to get a better rate, right? Her words sparked something, a memory buried deep beneath layers of exhaustion and daily struggle. Refinancing, years ago. The bank had been threatening foreclosure. Greta was a wreck, completely overwhelmed. I'd been working 2 jobs even then, barely scraping by, but I'd found a way. I'd found Truman, a decent lawyer, old school but sharp. He'd navigated the labyrinthine paperwork, found a lender willing to take a chance. And Truman had said something about protecting my investment. "Callie," I said slowly, the memory sharpening, coming into focus. "When I refinanced, Truman, the lawyer, he was very insistent. He said since I was taking on the entirety of the new loan, and since Mum was, well, not in a great state to manage finances, that the deed should be in my name, to protect me, to secure my investment." Callie's eyebrows shot up. "Seriously, the house is in your name?" I think so," I stammered, the implications hitting me with the force of a tidal wave. Mum signed everything. She was so grateful back then, just relieved we weren't going to be homeless. She barely glanced at the papers, just signed where Truman told her to. He made sure it was all witnessed, notarized, completely above board. He said it was the only sensible thing to do. "And you never told them?" Callie asked, incredulous. I shook my head. What was the point? It felt like holding a weapon. I hoped things would get better, that Sasha would grow up, that Mum would see. I don't know. It was easier to just keep paying the bills, keep my head down. Asserting it would have been another fight, another drama, and I just didn't have the energy. Until now. Now, Greta's words about Sasha's security cast that old decision in a very different light. "Caitlin, you need to find that deed," Callie urged, her voice low and intense. "Now, before they do whatever it is they're planning." The next morning, I called in sick to the coffee shop, a luxury I could ill afford, but this felt more important. I went to the bank, my hands clammy, the safety deposit box. I hadn't opened it in years. The small metal door swung open, and there it was, a thick manila envelope with Truman's firm name on it. Back in my car, parked in a quiet corner of the bank lot, I pulled out the documents. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the deed of trust, and there it was, clear, undeniable, typed in bold black ink. Owner, Caitlin Marie W. My full name. Greta's signature was on the transfer agreement, witnessed, dated 7 years ago. She had signed her rights away, lucidly and legally, to save the house, and then, apparently, conveniently forgotten all about it. I leaned my head back against the seat, a strange mix of emotions washing over me. Relief, potent and dizzying, and something else. A cold, hard anger. They were plotting, scheming, to give Sasha security with my house, the house I had bled for, sacrificed my youth for. They thought I was just the workhorse, the endlessly reliable provider, too tired and too dutiful to ever fight back. They had no idea the workhorse owned the stable and the land it stood on. A grim smile touched my lips. Let them plot. Let them scheme. I had the original notarized truth locked away, and suddenly I had all the energy in the world to use it. Armed with the knowledge of the deed, the following weeks took on a surreal quality. I watched them, really watched them. Sasha, who usually couldn't be bothered to spend 5 minutes in the same room as Greta unless she wanted something, was suddenly her shadow. "Mum, let me get your tea," she'd coo, fluffing Greta's pillows with an uncharacteristic solicitude. "Are you comfortable? Do you need anything at all?" Greta, starved for this kind of attention from her favoured daughter, lapped it up. "Oh, Sasha, you're such a good girl," she'd murmur, patting Sasha's hand. Their conversations became hushed when I entered a room. Little whispered conferences that would abruptly stop, replaced by overly bright smiles and strained small talk. Sasha started talking about the future a lot, always in vague terms, but always with a pointed look at Greta. "It's so important to have a place to call your own, isn't it, Mum?" she'd say. "A real safety net." I played my part, the tired, overworked older sister. I'd come home from my shifts, offer a weary hello, and retreat to my room or the kitchen table to work on my transcriptions. I let them think I was oblivious, too ground down by the daily grind to notice their little machinations. Inside, though, I was a coiled spring, every sense alert. The anger was still there, but it was colder now, more focused. It was morphing into a steely resolve. One Saturday, I was supposed to be working a double at the hospital, a brutal 16-hour shift. I'd told them as much, but the charge nurse, bless her understanding heart, had let me swap the first half with a colleague who needed the hours. So I came home mid-morning, letting myself in quietly. The house was silent. I tiptoed upstairs, intending to grab a few precious hours of sleep before heading back for the evening portion of my shift. As I passed Greta's slightly ajar bedroom door, I heard voices. Sasha's, low and insistent. Greta's, weak and hesitant. I froze. "But Caitlin's put so much into this house, Sasha," Greta was saying, her voice thin. "It doesn't feel right." "Mum, be realistic." Sasha's tone was a careful blend of sympathy and pressure. "Caitlin has her career. She's always working. She's fine. She can land on her feet anywhere. But me? What do I have? If something happens to you, where will I go? I'll be all alone, vulnerable. This is about protecting me, making sure I have a safe place." My breath caught in my throat. The casual cruelty of it, the utter dismissal of my decade of sacrifice. I worry about upsetting Caitlin, Greta whispered. "She doesn't need to know the details, Mom," Sasha soothed. "It's just some papers, a formality, to make the house mine officially, so I'm secure. You want me to be secure, don't you? After everything, it's the least you can do to make sure I'm looked after." There was a distinct emotional blackmail in her tone, the kind she'd perfected over years. A long silence. Then Greta sighed, a sound of utter defeat. "All right, dear, if you think it's for the best, if it will make you feel secure." "Oh, thank you, Mommy." Sasha's voice was suddenly bright, triumphant. "You won't regret this. I'll get everything arranged. It'll be super simple." I backed away from the door, my heart pounding, not with fear, but with a chilling certainty. They were actually going to do it. They were going to try and steal my house, the house I owned, the house I'd saved. The audacity was breathtaking. I didn't go to sleep. I went to my room, pulled out the deed again, and just looked at it. My name, my right. Then I thought about Sasha's words. "Caitlin has her jobs. She'll be fine. This is for my security." My blood ran cold, but not with fear. It was the coldness of resolve. They had no idea what was coming. They were so busy congratulating themselves on their cleverness, on manipulating the strong one, that they hadn't stopped to consider that the strong one might just be stronger and smarter than they ever imagined. The workhorse was about to show her teeth, and they were sharper than they knew. A few days later, Sasha announced she'd made an appointment. "Some legal stuff Mum needs to sort out," she said vaguely over breakfast, not meeting my eyes. "A lawyer's coming to the house on Thursday. It's just easier for Mum that way." "Oh," I said, keeping my tone neutral as I poured myself coffee. "What kind of legal stuff?" "Just estate planning," Sasha mumbled, suddenly fascinated by the pattern on her cereal bowl. "Making sure everything's in order, you know, for the future." Greta, sitting at the table, looked pale and avoided my gaze entirely. She just picked at her toast, her hand trembling slightly. "Right," I said. "Well, I'm scheduled for a double at the hospital on Thursday, so I'll be out all day." Perfect. I wouldn't have to witness their charade firsthand, and they'd feel more comfortable proceeding with their little plot. Thursday arrived. As I left for my double shift, I'd actually arranged to work from home on my transcription projects after a quick check-in at the hospital. I glanced at the small, discreet security camera I'd installed in the living room a year ago. I'd told them it was for Greta's safety in case she fell and I wasn't home. They'd barely registered it. Now, it was my silent witness. I spent the day on edge, my fingers flying across the keyboard, transcribing mind-numbing corporate meetings, but my thoughts were miles away in that living room. Around midday, my phone buzzed with a notification from the camera app. Motion detected. I logged in, my heart thumping. The feed was clear. There was Sasha, ushering in a man in a slightly rumpled suit, carrying a briefcase, her hand-picked lawyer, no doubt, and a woman I assumed was a notary. Greta was already seated on the sofa, looking small and frail. Sasha was all smiles and efficiency, directing them, offering coffee. "Ma'am, this is Mr. Henderson, and this is Ms. Albright. They're just here to help us with those papers we talked about." Mr. Henderson spread a sheaf of documents on the coffee table. I watched, my stomach churning, as he explained them in low, soothing tones. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I saw Greta nod occasionally, her expression a mixture of confusion and resignation. Sasha hovered nearby, patting her shoulder, murmuring encouragement. "It's just a formality, Mum, for my security, remember?" Then came the moment. Miss Albright, the notary, presented a pen. Greta hesitated, her eyes darting around the room as if looking for an escape, or perhaps for me. Sasha gently took her hand and guided it to the signature line. "Just sign here, Mom, and here." Greta signed. Her hand shook, but she signed. One document, then another. Miss Albright stamped and embossed. Mr. Henderson gathered the papers, a satisfied smile on his face. Sasha was beaming, practically vibrating with triumph. She hugged Greta tightly. "Thank you, Mom. You have no idea what this means to me." Greta managed a weak smile, but her eyes were filled with an undeniable unease. She looked relieved, yes, as if a heavy burden had been lifted, but also deeply, profoundly troubled, as if she knew on some level she'd crossed a line. As soon as the lawyer and notary left, Sasha was on her phone, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Luna, you will not believe what just happened. It's official. The house is mine. We have to celebrate. I'm thinking a massive new homeowner party next Saturday. You have to come." I watched her pace the living room, already planning decorations, guest lists, catering, my house, her party. The audacity was almost comical. A grim satisfaction settled over me. They were walking right into it. Every celebratory word, every excited plan was another nail in their own coffin. That evening, I drafted an email to Truman, my old lawyer. I attached a scanned copy of my original deed and a brief explanation of the situation, requesting his advice on the swiftest and most legally sound way to proceed with an eviction. His reply came the next morning. "Your deed is ironclad, Caitlin. Their subsequent paperwork is meaningless. I can have the eviction notices drawn up by tomorrow. Let me know when you want them served." A few days later, a flamboyantly designed invitation arrived in the mail, addressed to me, gold-embossed lettering on thick cream-coloured cardstock. "You're invited to celebrate Sasha Wade's new home and new beginnings. Join me for an evening of fun, friends and festivities as I embark on this exciting new chapter." The party was scheduled for the following Saturday. 1 week. I looked at the invitation, a predatory smile touching my lips. New beginnings, indeed, I thought. Oh, this was going to be a party to remember. The week leading up to Sasha's new homeowner party was a masterclass in oblivious entitlement. She floated through the house, a whirlwind of excited energy, barking orders and making demands. "Caitlin, can you pick up the extra platters from Party City after your shift? I ordered them under my name," she'd call out as I was trying to scarf down a quick meal between jobs. Or, "Ugh, this living room is so drab. Caitlin, Don't you have any nicer throw pillows? We need to make this place look amazing for my guests. I played along, the dutiful, slightly put-upon older sister. Sure, Sasha. I'll see what I can do, Sasha. Inside, I was a spectator at a very bizarre, very personal play, counting down the days. Each request, each assumption of ownership just solidified my resolve. Greta, on the other hand, was a ghost. She barely left her room. When she did, her eyes were shadowed, and she avoided looking directly at me. If our paths crossed, she'd offer a watery, nervous smile and scurry away. Guilt, I presumed. Or perhaps a dawning, terrifying suspicion that she'd made a monumental mistake. But she never said a word. She never tried to explain, to apologize, to backtrack. She just let Sasha's triumphant preparations continue unchecked. Sasha, meanwhile, was spending money like it was water, or rather, like it was my water, endlessly replenished from some magical spring. New outfits arrived daily, cases of expensive wine were delivered. She hired a caterer. Just a few light bites, darling, but chic, very chic, and ordered a towering cake decorated with little marzipan houses. I saw the invoices left carelessly on the kitchen counter, all on newly opened lines of credit in her name. The debt she was racking up was almost impressive in its recklessness. "Isn't this exciting, Caitlin?" she gushed one afternoon, holding up a string of fairy lights. "My very own housewarming. It's going to be epic." "Looks like it," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "You should try to look a bit more festive, you know," she added, eyeing my worn hospital scrubs. "It is a party, after all, in my house." "I'll do my best," I promised. Behind the scenes, I was making my own preparations. I confirmed the details with Truman. The eviction notices were prepared, one for Sasha, one for Greta. He'd arranged for Sheriff Darrell Pearson, a no-nonsense officer with a reputation for handling difficult situations calmly but firmly, to serve the papers. We timed it for 8 p.m. on Saturday, right when Sasha's party should be in full swing. Callie was my rock. "Are you sure you're okay with this?" she asked during one of our hushed phone calls. "This is a big step." "I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Cal," I told her, and it was the truth. The exhaustion was still there, a bone-deep weariness, but now it was overlaid with a strange, almost exhilarating sense of anticipation. Nerves, yes, but also a profound feeling of impending justice. "They made their bed, Callie. I'm just providing the eviction notice to go with it." "I'll be there for you," she promised. "Not at the party, obviously, but afterwards. Whatever you need." The day of the party arrived, bright and sunny, mocking the storm that was about to break. Sasha was a blur of frantic activity, directing the caterers, arranging flowers, changing her outfit 3 times before settling on a glittery gold dress that screamed, "Look at me." Greta remained sequestered in her room, emerging only briefly to tell Sasha she wasn't feeling up to joining the festivities right away, which earned her a frustrated sigh from my sister. As evening approached, guests started to arrive. Sasha's gaggle of superficial friends, all air kisses and loud laughter. Luna was there, of course, looking like she'd stepped off a runway. A guy named Eric, who Sasha had been vaguely dating, swaggered in, already looking for the bar. I showered and dressed with care, choosing a simple but elegant black dress, a stark contrast to my usual tired work attire. I even put on makeup. When I emerged, Sasha did a double take. "Wow, Caitlin, you clean up nice," she said, a hint of surprise in her voice. Then, dismissively, "Can you make sure the ice bucket is full?" "Of course, Sasha," I said, my smile serene. As 7:45 rolled around, Sasha clapped her hands, gathering everyone in the living room. Champagne flutes were distributed. She beamed, her face flushed with excitement and alcohol. "Okay, everyone, time for a toast." My heart began to hammer against my ribs. This was it. I took a deep breath, smoothed down my dress, and casually slipped out the front door into the cool evening air. I walked a few paces down the driveway. "Showtime," I murmured, just as the distinct shape of Sheriff Pearson's patrol car turned onto our street and slowly pulled up to the curb. The red and blue lights weren't flashing, but its presence was unmistakable. The living room was buzzing, a cacophony of chatter and laughter. Sasha stood in the centre, champagne flute held high, her gold dress shimmering under the lights. She tapped her glass with a manicured fingernail. "Okay, everyone, quiet down," she trilled, her voice already a little slurred. "I just want to make a little toast." The room gradually hushed, expectant faces turned towards her. Eric gave her an encouraging wink. Luna beamed proudly. "To my new home," Sasha declared, her voice ringing with triumph. "A place of security, finally mine. It's been a long time coming, but I'm so thrilled to finally have a space that's truly my own, and I couldn't have done it without my wonderfully supportive mother." She blew a kiss towards Greta's closed bedroom door. "Mum, this one's for you too." A smattering of applause and cheers broke out. Just as Sasha was about to take a triumphant sip, the doorbell chimed, loud and insistent. Sasha frowned, annoyance flickering across her face. Who could that be? I wasn't expecting anyone else. She handed her flute to a bewildered-looking Eric. "Hold this. Honestly, some people's timing." She flounced to the door and pulled it open. Standing on the porch were Sheriff Darrell Pearson, his expression impassive, and a younger deputy I didn't recognize. I stepped out from the shadows of the porch, moving to stand just behind them, a plain manila folder clutched in my hand. Sasha's jaw dropped. "Sheriff, what's going on? Is everything okay?" Her eyes darted past them to me, a flicker of confusion, then irritation. "Caitlin, what are you doing out here?" "Sasha Wade?" Sheriff Pearson asked, his voice calm but firm, cutting through her questions. "Yes, that's me," Sasha said, her bravado wavering. "What is this about?" "And is Greta Wade present in the residence?" the sheriff continued. "My mother? Yes, she's in her room, not feeling well. Why?" "We have some legal documents to serve to both Sasha Wade and Greta Wade," Sheriff Pearson stated, his gaze unwavering. He held out 2 official-looking envelopes. The music, which had been playing softly, seemed to screech to a halt as a sudden, awkward silence fell over the living room. Guests craned their necks, their expressions shifting from festive to curious, then to alarmed. Eric Stout's mouth hung open. Luna looked utterly baffled. Sasha stared at the envelopes, then at the sheriff, then at me. Her face was a canvas of rapidly changing emotions: confusion, disbelief, dawning horror. "Legal documents? What are you talking about? This is my party, this is my house." "Actually," I said, my voice clear and steady, stepping forward so everyone could see me, "it's not your house, Sasha, it's mine." Sasha's head snapped towards me. "What? Caitlin, what kind of sick joke is this? Stop it!" Sheriff Pearson interjected smoothly. "Miss Sasha Wade, Ms. Greta Wade, you are hereby served with an eviction notice. You have 30 days to vacate these premises. The legal homeowner is Caitlin Wade." He gestured towards me. Sasha's face crumpled. The triumphant glow vanished, replaced by a mask of utter slack-jawed disbelief. Then her expression twisted into a furious snarl. "You're lying! This is my house! Mum gave it to me! Mum, tell them!" She whirled around, looking desperately towards Greta's bedroom. The bedroom door opened slowly, and Greta emerged, looking frail and bewildered by the sudden silence and the sight of the uniformed officers. She saw the papers in the sheriff's hand, then her gaze landed on me, standing there, calm and resolute. Comprehension, stark and terrible, dawned on her face. Her hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. I don't understand," Greta stammered, looking from me to Sasha, then to the sheriff. "It's quite simple, Greta," I said, my voice devoid of any warmth. I held up the manila folder. This house has been legally mine for the past 7 years. I have all the documentation right here. You signed it over to me when I refinanced it to save it from foreclosure. Remember? Greta stared at me, her face ashen. I didn't remember. I thought, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Tears began to stream down her pale cheeks. Sasha shrieked, a raw, animalistic sound of pure rage and betrayal. You snake! You conniving, backstabbing snake! How could you do this to us, to your own family? Family? I repeated, the word tasting like poison. Is that what you call what you've done to me for the past 10 years? Sasha lunged at me, her fingers curled into claws, screaming incoherently. The deputy moved swiftly, stepping between us, blocking her path. You'll pay for this, Caitlin! Sasha shrieked, her voice cracking. You'll regret this for the rest of your life! I looked her dead in the eye, my own gaze cold and unyielding. No, Sasha, I said, my voice quiet but carrying in the stunned silence. You're finally paying for everything, and I regret nothing. The party imploded. Sasha's shriek echoed through the sudden deathly silence, followed by a cacophony of gasps and horrified whispers. Guests began to melt away, muttering awkward excuses, their eyes darting between me, a hysterical Sasha, and a crumbling Greta. Eric Stout was one of the first to bolt, practically tripping over a discarded champagne flute in his haste. Luna lingered for a moment, her face a mask of shock before whispering something to Sasha and making a swift exit. So much for loyalty. Sasha continued to rage, a torrent of abuse and threats, until the deputy firmly suggested she calm down or risk being escorted off the premises immediately for disturbing the peace. Greta just stood there, tears streaming down her face, repeating, I didn't remember. I truly didn't remember. Her words were a pathetic whisper against the storm of Sasha's fury. Sheriff Pearson, ever the professional, reiterated the terms of the eviction, 30 days, no exceptions, and handed them each their copy of the notice. I suggest you start making arrangements, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument, before he and the deputy departed. The moment the door closed behind them, Sasha rounded on Greta. This is your fault, she screamed. You and your stupid failing memory. You told me it was mine. You signed the papers. I thought I was helping you, sweetie, Greta sobbed, collapsing onto the nearest armchair, the one Sasha had proudly proclaimed her throne just an hour earlier. I watched them, a strange detachment settling over me. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind a vast, echoing emptiness. Callie arrived shortly after, a silent promise of support fulfilled. She took one look at the scene, the remnants of a party-turned-disaster, Sasha pacing and ranting, Greta weeping, and simply put an arm around my shoulders. The next few days were a blur of frantic phone calls from Sasha to various lawyers, each one confirming what Truman had already told me. My claim was unassailable. Her recently signed documents were worthless. Greta descended into a state of near catatonic despair, occasionally pleading with me through tear-filled eyes. Caitlin, please, isn't there some other way? We're family. We were family, Greta, I'd replied, my voice flat, until you and Sasha decided my sacrifices meant nothing, and my home was yours for the taking. Callie helped me arrange for a locksmith. The day after the party, while Sasha was out futilely consulting another lawyer and Greta was locked in her room, the locks were changed. I left a new key for them, with a note reminding them of their 30-day deadline taped to the inside of the kitchen door where they'd see it. The 30 days were excruciating. Sasha alternated between furious outbursts, sullen silences, and desperate manipulative attempts at reconciliation. Caitlin, think about Mum's health. The stress will kill her, she'd wail, or, where are we supposed to go? We'll be on the streets. You had a plan for my security, Sasha, I reminded her coolly. I suggest you start making one for your own. Greta, for her part, seemed to shrink, the fight draining out of her. She packed her belongings in a daze, her movements slow and heavy. There were no more excuses, just a profound, weary sadness. On the 30th day, a battered moving van, much smaller than the one that had delivered Sasha's new furniture weeks before, pulled up to the curb. Callie was with me. We watched from the window as Sasha and Greta, with the reluctant help of a couple of Sasha's remaining guilt-tripped friends, loaded their diminished possessions. Sasha shot venomous glares at the house, at me. Greta didn't look up at all. When the van finally pulled away, an almost deafening silence descended. I walked through the rooms. My rooms. Sasha had taken the new furniture she'd bought on credit, leaving empty spaces and faint indentations in the carpet. The lavender air freshener was gone. The lopsided sunflower painting was gone. Callie squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I took a deep breath. The air tasted clean. "I think so," I said. "It's quiet." "It's yours," she said softly. The silence in the house was deafening at first. Then it became the sound of peace, my peace. They made their choices. I made mine. Some might call it revenge. I call it balancing the scales. They wanted security at my expense. Now they had none. I heard through the grapevine they were staying temporarily with a distant cousin in a cramped spare room. Their security had vanished as quickly as Sasha's party guests. I didn't offer forgiveness. I didn't offer reconciliation. The family unit, as I had known it, was irrevocably broken, but I was finally undeniably free. Free from the weight, free from the resentment, free from their endless grasping needs. The house felt different now, lighter. It was no longer a symbol of my servitude, but a testament to my strength, my endurance, and ultimately, my defiance. I looked around at the empty spaces, not with sadness, but with a sense of possibility. It was time for my own new beginnings.